If the latest Union boss has left you feeling hollow, then I am here to provide some fulfillment in your life. In this video, I'm going to go over the Union boss Hollow's mechanics, talk about some team suggestions, and hopefully help you boss it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Etheria Restart video, and as mentioned today we are going to be continuing on the Union Boss series with one of the OGs. So let's get into it. Like all the other bosses, the ability format is going to follow a very similar pattern. We are going to have an AoE followed by a single target, then followed with two more AoEs, and then we come to the passives. So if we click on this first one here, it will show us essentially how this boss is going to work. Now, a few friends of mine have asked for help on this, even a few Union members of mine have asked to assist, and I have successfully done that without blowing my own trumpet, and a lot of it comes down to not understanding the mechanics. So that's what we're going to aim to do here. So as you've probably read, if the target has two or less buffs, the damage of this ability increases. And that's essentially the theme for the Hollow boss. Buffs are king. Okay, you want as many as you can. And as you can see, as we rotate through these abilities, ideally, if you can keep an uptime of 3 all the time, you're golden. But yes, 2 hits, if you have fewer than 2 debuffs, the damage multiplier increases. Single target, places attack on himself. That's exactly the same as everything else. Black Hole, another AoE, and has a 75% chance to dispel 2 buffs from us. So something we're going to have to consider. The damage of this does not necessarily increase having less buffs. It's the sort of first and the fourth ability that really care about that. The next ability then is another AoE, which ignores 100% of our defense. But for every buff that we have, this defense ignore is reduced by 33%, hence the need of having 3 up at any one time. Now, if you just full auto it like I do, this is just like a random crapshoot, especially as the ability before is going to dispel a couple. If you're playing it on manual, you might want to not use your buffs here to have them ready for this one to give you a better chance at surviving, but I personally don't have time for that. First passive, when attacking the worm, your attack increases by 25% for every buff that you have, and then the last 2 are the same. So Reason Affinity heroes do 100% extra damage, and then it gains an attack boost for every 2 abilities that it has. So buffs are the name of the game. What sort of buffs are we looking for? There are a couple of key ones that I think stand out for me, which seem really obvious, but they serve dual purposes. First one, increased defense. Now this increases your survivability 2-fold. Increased defense increases your defense. Great, does what it says on the tin. But it also gives you a buff which reduces the damage that you take from the digital collaboration and this one just here. Even if you just have the increased defense, just increasing your survivability naturally and reducing this defense ignore, hopefully you see where I'm getting at here. It's a good thing to have, so do try and make sure you bring it in if you can. Likewise, your attack increases for every buff that you have. So increase attack also works 2-fold. You're increasing your own attack and then increasing the damage you do against the worm boss here. So that is a very good one to bring with you as well. Hellkid, his sound barrier is a massive shield. Works similarly to increased defense. You're increasing your survivability 2-fold. So things like that you got to think about when you're building your teams. So with that, let's take a look at some of the teams my own Union have been running. You'll see, again, similar pattern to a lot of the teams throughout this series so far. But there is another particular standout in this one, and that is Chloros. Chloros is a monster in single target fights. I know that, you know that, it's not a surprise, especially since his buff for the full launch. But he is of red affinity, so he's doing 100% increased damage this time around. Now this is the 3rd boss in the rotation for us, so it is the hardest, it hits the hardest, it it's a bit of a pain, to be honest. But Chloris is what you're seeing a lot of us are using either as supports or have built up for this to excel in this particular fight. What else are we seeing in common? Now, she is the weak affinity here, but Linglo is popping up an awful lot. Why? Because she places a lot of buffs. She brings immunity, which, whilst the boss itself doesn't place any debuffs, still counts. She also has Whale Prayer, which counts as another buff and provides healing, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a quick peek. Doesn't tell us, but yeah, before each healing has a 60% chance to purify a debuff. If the target has no debuffs, 60% chance to apply Whale Prayer. So yeah, no debuffs are being placed on us, so you're just going to get a couple stacks of Whale Prayer. That on its own is enough to completely nullify the defense ignore from the boss's fourth skill. You're seeing a lot of lilies, mainly for the increased speed. Again, it counts as a buff, keeps you rotating faster. The downside to that is you are rotating faster, so if you are really trying to sort of dial in like a speed tune, do take that into consideration. Freyas are another popular pick here because of the Dreamweave buff, which again is mainly there to stop debuffs. But again, it counts as another one along with this increased defense, which, as we mentioned earlier, is very good for this one. So again, very nice one to bring into the fight. She also has increased attack and a damage amp through the Nightmare. And then Kloss, again, we all know how good Kloss is. Her decreased defense, decreased speed, allows you to do more damage, slows the boss down, and she's got the hacking progress as well, which is another damage amp. So between her and Freya, although they are neutral for this fight, are doing wonders. And yet, you're going to see that that is pretty much the same throughout a lot of the teams in here. Valerian, another great support unit because of the buff effect. Hazy Dream, she puts 4 buffs she can place on you, placing them in intervals of 2 for each one that you are missing. So she's another great pick here. As mentioned, Hellkid is another good support option you could bring. If you don't have Kloss, you can bring Dinah for this with the defense down and the vulnerability. RC77 has the decreased attack, but he is weak affinity, so perhaps I would avoid bringing him in for this particular fight. Hellkid is a good option, as noted. Doki Doki is fabulous, mainly because her data stream and backup buffs cannot be dispelled. So you are 99% of the time going to have at least 1, maybe 2 buffs for that last ability. Definitely a character which feels undervalued now compared from the first betas, but she is still good in a lot of fights, this being one of them. Rahu has the increased defense. And yeah, that's kind of it. Beyontin brings increased attack and crit damage, I think. Yep. The Underworld Flower is another good buff here because it reduces the damage by 5%. Dorothy the Wisher brings crit rate, crit damage, and life leech, so somewhat pseudo negates the need for a support with the life leech, especially if you're pairing the life leech buff with the Nightmare debuff of Freya. Some very good options there. And outside of that, that's it for sort of the teams looking at it. So I've already hit for today, as you can see, so I'll show you my run. Now this run was on full auto. I didn't change anything, I just sort of went for it. Another thing you can think about if you are missing a Lily, other increased speed options you have are Mio, although Mio's other abilities don't work in this particular fight. You also got Kazami Kazuyo, who brings increased speed, decreased speed, and reduces your cooldowns. But let's say you've got no increased speed options. Don't forget Black Flags. Black Flags place increased speed on you, and that will count towards your buff calculations, I suppose you can call it. So don't panic too much. If you happen to have a load of Black Flags, but 0 speed increase in your roster, that is another way of gaining a buff. The same can be said for Jackal Guard, also placing the increased speed. Law of Silence puts you in a void state, which I believe counts as a buff too, although that will disappear when you take your turn, so do bear that in mind. But if you're running quite slow and you just need to survive the first couple hits, the void state that the Law of Science brings is another option. Now in this particular fight I got to sort of 80, as you saw. Members of my clan did get to 90, and there isn't really too much else to talk about because there is no burn or shield of light. This is very much just, you know, a buff manipulation, I suppose, fight, just making sure you keep the uptime. Now as you saw there, we only had one buff on us when that third ability landed. So it hit a bit like a truck. But we still soldiered on without the Freya. My Freya just wasn't in the best gear at this time. I have improved that today. Artisans and your Diamond Hearts will work nicely as well, providing shields for you to help with your survivability. But yeah, this is the run. I haven't built a Chloros myself. I am borrowing one of the Union guys, Chloros, because he is so good for this fight. I'm oddly missing Chloros, Rosa, which are two of the OP boss hunters for this, and I haven't built a Ditting yet. So there we are. That was the fight. Hopefully you found this video insightful and can help you improve your score to help your Union out in the long run. But to summarise, this fight is all about buffs and maintaining a number of them. The more unique buffs you can have on yourself, the better it is for you, but there are some standout ones. Increase defense and increase attack. Increase defense will work twofold in terms of increasing your survivability. Increase attack works twofold in terms of increasing your damage. This is due to the various abilities and passives built into the boss's kit. If you are missing some buffs like increased speed, you can bring in shells like Black Flag to give you increased speed, and also ones like Diamond Heart and Artisan give you a shield to again just help with your survivability. Reason units are king here. Some standout ones in particular are Chloros for a damage dealer, and Hellkid bringing the decreased attack, as well as the sound barrier, which counts as a buff and gives you a shield. So if you pair that with increased defense, you are pretty Gucci on the survivability front. Some other standout heroes: Freya brings increased defense, increased attack, and Dreamweave. That's 3 buffs on her own. Even though the boss doesn't bring any debuffs for the Dreamweave to block, it's still good to have. Dorothy the Wisher has 3 buffs. Beyontin has 3 buffs, with Underworld Flower acting as another good survivability, as well as the crit damage and attack increase. Don't forget your fundamentals. Decreased defense, decreased speed work great in these fights. Kloss being a standout, but if you don't have Kloss, Dinah brings you vulnerable and decreased defense. And that's it from me. So thank you very much for watching. Take care and look after yourselves. Work hard, but as always, play harder. And I will see you in another one soon. Cheers.